Hi everyone, this is Vlad from Modulus Render, and in today's tutorial we're going to talk about how to achieve soft, realistic lighting through a curtain using SketchUp and Enscape. First of all, let's take a look at our 3D model, and you can see it's a big room with very little furniture, where the curtain is the biggest part of the composition. Now, my inspiration for this, I have a reference photo over here, is this picture taken by the photographer Timothy Kay. And I really liked the natural soft lighting that's coming through the curtain, almost making it look like a light diffuser that would just soften every shadow in the image. So you see how soft these shadows are. I wanted to achieve this look, this very soft lighting that's coming through a curtain. And if you've done curtains with alpha maps, opacity maps, and the foliage material in Enscape, you know that if you pass the sun through a textured material like that, you'll get a lot of artifacts in the shadows. So what I want to do is a sort of a layered curtain technique for the light to come through very even and to still have this visible curtain effect in the image. Now, first of all, what I want to do is I have my curtain over here, and you can see it's a little bit transparent. It's at 72% transparency, and I wanted to have a fall-off effect on the texture. So if I make this 100%, you'll see that it has this gradient going from gray to black to white. So all over this curtain there's this imitation of a fall-off effect, because there's no fall-off material in Enscape, so we have to fake it a little bit. So how do you achieve this? Let me just put it back to 72%. And we have this other material on this curtain. So what I did was put it horizontally. And then I used a plugin from Fredo, which is called Color by Altitude. So what this basically does is it creates a gradient starting from the lowest point to the highest point of the model, and it makes a gradient that we can choose or we can make custom here. So you have, I don't know, rainbow, grayscale, and I saved one, which is this one, with just two black colors in these slots, and then the rest just white, because it will create a gradient from black going to white, then keeping it white for the highest point, and then going back to black. So it will create sort of a grayscale and lots of grays on this curtain. Now it has to be horizontal, because this is how it's gonna see the lowest point and the highest point of the model. And we just basically do a gradient. We select the 3D model of the curtain and just hit apply. All right. Now we have the material set up. As you can see, we have these nice shades of gray onto the curtain, which will mimic a fall off. Now we're going to use this texture in the transparency slot in the material editor, and this is going to generate like different values for the transparency. Where it's black, it's going to be transparent, and where it's white, it's going to be opaque. So we're going to play with that and have different gradients of or different levels of transparency inside our material. And of course, we can set it up around 70%. And then just multiply this in our window opening. And I put some columns behind the curtain so we have some silhouette showing up over there. But for now, let's see how this looks, and let's just set up our material. So with the Fredo gradient applied to our curtain, there's just the same texture applied to transmittance. And as I said, 72% opacity, and the texture is inverted. Now this is how the curtain looks in Enscape. If we invert the texture, you see the gradient. Let me just go closer. Maybe something like this. And you see the gradient has a little bit of an effect on the overall look. It doesn't look like a plastic bag that's just transparent. So this is what we achieve with this fall off texture on the curtain, and we just make it transparent. Now let me take you through the lighting or the settings of the scene. There's I usually don't use auto exposure, so this is about 52%. The field of view is 26 degrees, so it's like a zoom lens that is used for this photograph. No auto contrast, highlights and shadows down to minus 100%, 80% saturation. What else? Let me see. I used an HDRI image that is basically a black and white blurred HDRI that looks like this. So it's not just white, it has some gray in it. So I can get this kind of blurred, very blurred effect onto the curtain. And I don't think we have any sun, so yeah, no sun. So just an HDRI lighting the scene for now. Now, here comes the fun part. I have the first layer of the curtain, which is the fall off. And I need another layer of the curtain that will be the texture. And for that, I will make a very basic shape behind the curtain that will act as the texture layer. So it may sound complicated, but you'll see the end result. It's really nice. So we just go and make a polyline simply like this, following the curves of this curtain. You don't have to be very precise, like I'm not gonna go very close, but just follow the overall shape of the curtain, something like that. And once we have everything, I mean the whole line drawn, we just extrude the line. Let me group that. And we apply the texture to this. So I have a curtain texture over here, I apply it to my low poly model. And I get something that looks like that. Let me make this more transparent so you can see. You see with the low poly plan and without. The texture I used for the curtain is this one from textures.com, muslin fabric PBR 0245. And I think I just used this one for the texture because it has transparency, so it's a PNG file. And you see with this, what basically this allows me to do is use these two layers like a sandwich, and this way I can put my light in between these two layers so the light doesn't go through these little holes in the textures. Let me show you what I mean. Now, whenever we have a texture that has an opacity map, or it has holes in it, basically, let me just delete this and put my finished model here. And as you can see, there's these two layers. So whenever we have a sun or a light source going through that type of a texture, you'll see the texture will be visible and will create some noise. Just turn on the shadow sharpness. Of course, this is too sharp, but I just want to show you. So the shadow will come through the holes and create all kinds of artifacts. Now, of course, we can reduce the shadow sharpness and have it like this, but if you've been watching my tutorials, you know this shadow is still too harsh for me, so I want very, very soft shadows. So I won't be using the sun in this case. What I will do is I will put light panels in between the curtain and the texture layer. So let me just turn off the texture layer and show you what I mean. I will put line lights over here. And of course, make them bigger. Maybe 3 of them in a row. So we have this big line light. Now what I want to do with this is fill the opening in the window. So usually I would put maybe a lot of these at a distance, so I have all kinds of light sources mixing together and creating a very soft shadow. But this placement of the lights, if I have a reflective surface, they will show up on in my reflections. So I'll be able to see if I turn the luminosity higher. I don't really have reflective surfaces in here, not that much, but if they are placed at a big distance one from another, they will create lines in the reflection. So what I did for this project is I multiplied them very, very close to each other. So something like that, and multiply it by 20, 30, 100, however big the window opening is for your specific project. And it should look something like this. So very close together. Let me just delete these and open up my layer where I already have them they're here. So you see it's a lot of line lights multiplied, intersecting each other. So it gives me this big panel of light right behind the curtain. So I have the curtain layer with the fall off material on it. Then I have the light panel, and then behind that I have the curtain texture. So basically the light is in between this curtain sandwich. And so I get this very, very soft lighting coming through the curtain. I can see the texture. And I have very, very soft shadows over here. They're so soft that you can even miss them being there. So let me see the intensity of this light. 5000. We turn on safe frame and look at my image. So all these layers contribute to the overall look of our image. Of course, always looking at the reference image where we have this gradient appearing. We have the texture being present, and what else? I think we have more pronounced shadows in here, so more ambient occlusion and darker shadows, but we can do that in post-processing. Another thing we can add to amplify the shadows are some extra lights. So I call these shadow lights, which basically are big lights over the main subjects, and some panels with spotlights to have this shadow and this shadow more enhanced. So let me just go closer. So I need these contact shadows and the shadows of the legs of the chair to be more visible. So if I turn these off, you'll see We don't have those anymore. And turn them on, and they're more visible. We don't want to overdo this, so the intensity of these lights is very low, just to have the shadow appear more clearly. And now we can just set up our scenes, and we're good to go. We can start rendering. Now these are some of the renders that I did using this technique. As you can see, the texture of the curtain is visible, the light comes through, we have soft shadows. All because of that layered curtain material. I hope you found this information useful. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.